I couldn't wait. Hey, it's Romania Black. No, after episode 8, I was like, I'm not waiting a week to watch Demon Slayer episode 9. How dare they end on that cliffhanger? How dare they? I woke up this morning and was like, I know Demon Slayer episode 7 is going to be coming out on Patreon and episode 6 is going to come out on YouTube. So I am recording a little bit ahead, but I could not wait. I was like, no, I can't do it. I want to find out now. Like, how dare you end on a cliffhanger like that and then expect me to wait a week? I couldn't do it. And I was going to wait till later today, and I was like, no. So I'm sorry I'm recording ahead. If there are comments with episodes 6 and 7, I will incorporate them into the next, and then I'll probably take a break. No, I won't. but I'll definitely address them in the comment section. And if there's anything that stands out, I'll bring it up with episode 10. But we're at the 3-episode warning for this season. It's gone by so quickly. And the pacing has been great. The animation in the last episode, oh my gosh, UFO Table, what are you doing? It was so good. And I lost track of time. I was so engrossed in the fight and watching it and just soaking it all in that when that cliffhanger happened, I was like, are you joking? That's the end of the episode already. They're too short. The whole nin-nins at the end, we don't need those. We don't need the end credit stuff. Just give us more of the episode. But that's all right. I'm telling myself there's a 3rd season that's going to be coming next year, so that will be fine. I can do that. So I can handle season 3. But man, I'm so floored and excited for this episode. I don't have any comments coming off of the last episode other than the fact that there's no way that Gyutaro is going to go down that easily. Like, something's going to happen. We still have this episode and 2 more. So I just can't see him dying. I could see him maybe getting decapitated, but the thing is you have to decapitate both him and his sister same time. And I could see Inosuke and Zenitsu not getting the job done with Daki, and then with Gyutaro, him getting decapitated and then just not syncing up, right? And Tanjiro's like on his last leg. The boy is like about to pass out. Like, Tanjiro's way beyond his limits, and Tengen is poisoned, and I'm worried about Tengen. The death flags are out. I'm real nervous. I'm really nervous, but I've got my contacts out and my glasses are here. I don't like during the daytime the glare that they give, so I can see the screen fine and stuff, so that should be fine. But when I get to the discussion, I may pop these back on, or if my eyes start to hurt. But we'll be all right otherwise. So, but yeah, y'all. Episode 9. I'm so excited, and I just couldn't wait. I was like, I gotta watch it now. So woke up and was like, it is time. So let's stop wasting more time, y'all, and dive into this episode. I'm pretty excited. So we're gonna start episode 9 of Demon Slayer season 2 here in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Oh, I'm gonna put my glasses back on for this, for the rewatch. We're in a pretty dire spot, aren't we? Oh no, Demon Slayer, you're tugging at my heartstrings already, and I'm not ready for the last 2 episodes, I don't think. We really are in dire straits, aren't we? I figured, I knew that it wasn't going to be that easy to decapitate him, but I was like, this episode went on this whirlwind of, the moment you get backstory, like in the last episode, it's like, okay, usually sudden backstory is a red flag. That's a death flag. It's not good. And then when this episode started, and it was like flashing back to Tengen at his family's grave, and they're having this meal, and you're seeing all the wives there, and it's all happy and melancholy, but hopeful. You're like, I'm getting death flags. And then when you see her talking about retiring after they defeat an upper ranked demon, I'm like, oh, that's death flags for sure. But I didn't think the way that the rest of the episode went, it started to give you this hopeful feeling like, okay, maybe Tengen can hold him off, and maybe they can decapitate Daki and then go back to help, and then it all just goes to hell, and you're like, oh no, wait a minute. Oh, Inosuke, how? I don't know how Inosuke's not going to die from this. He got stabbed with the sickle in the heart. Or maybe it missed his heart, but it's like it got a lung at least. Inosuke's surviving this. I don't know how Inosuke's surviving this. Zenitsu looks like he's about to get hit by those bandages. Tanjiro's on his last limb. Tengen, the poison has spread all into his arm. He's lost a hand. He's out. The wives, thank God they told the wife to go away. I thought she was going to die in this episode. I thought Hinitsuru, I thought she was going to die, and Tengen got so worked up over her. I don't want to say that Tengen plays favorites with his wives, but Hina, she might be the favorite just by this episode. But he was just, which I think he would have that reaction for any of his wives that were in danger. But oh my God, this episode, and then the little nin at the end. There was no happy, warm, fuzzy feeling. Nope. Oh God. So yeah, I was really starting to get a bit emotional in this episode, and I was like, I don't usually cry with anime. It takes a lot to get me to cry and shed tears, but I was the little emotional stakes in this episode and setting everything up with Tengen and just how he feels. God, I'm making so many. Y'all better vote for him for the husbando bracket for next year. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all better vote for Tengen for the husbando bracket, because I have instant regrets now that we've seen so much with him and how he's with his wives. I was like, I really have regrets. I'm glad y'all didn't spoil me during the husbando brackets, being like, why did you not let Tengen go further? X, Y, and Z. I'm glad y'all didn't spoil me, because I'm getting it now, and it's like, oh, Gyotaro is quite fearsome and is just, they're an upper rank. This fight establishes in so many ways just how difficult everything from here on in this series is going to be. Because yeah, these are, Daki and Gyotaro are number 6 of 6. They're at the bottom of the barrel. You still have, and then, oh God, you've got, oh God, not Akiza. You've got the one that killed Rengoku. He was number 3. So he's going to be even harder than these two. I do think, even though they're number 6, I do think it makes them a little bit stronger, maybe, that, the Akaza, that was the one I was thinking of, number 3, Akaza. I do think it helps Gyotaro and Daki because they're 2 and 1. So even though they're number 6, I think that separate, they're not as strong perhaps as the others that are up there, but the fact that they tag team is a problem. But oh my God, this OP is so happy. Now looking at this episode, I'm like, well, other than Tengen with his siblings, yeah, if the number 6 is this strong, I'm a little bit concerned about numbers 5 through 1. A little bit concerned. And Akaza's number 3. So that's, but Akaza's main thing seems to be that he's just a good swordsman and he's super freaking strong. Like, that's just his stick. He's the counterpart to Rengoku, right? Whereas with Gyotaro and Daki, they have the poison sickles, they have the bands, all of that. That's what makes them strong. It's not necessarily their brute strength, it's the accessories, which makes sense for a Tengen fight because it's flashy, right? It's flashy like Tengen, so you'd have these flashy accessories. I'm very curious the other moons, but I don't want to know anything about them. I'm just terrified at this point because this is number 6 and we're having this much trouble. That's concerning. But yeah, whenever you start out an episode with a flashback and it's at a graveyard, you know that things are not going to go well in this episode. And so, God, Tengen just being a freaking mammoth of a man. Like, his biceps are redonkulous. But I love the idea of pouring sake on the gravesite, being like, we can't drink together, so this is the only way we can do it. And then having the dinner, like, with the family at the gravesite. And saying if my siblings were still alive, we'd drink together. But we would have gone drinking one day, meaning they never got to that point. Because, yeah, they were 15. He was 15 when they died, so he never got a chance to drink with them. Yeah, cut me some slack. And when the one wife asks if he still thinks about his siblings, he says we'll drink together over there. So I'm like, does he... But he makes the comment later on that he's going to hell. So I'm like, But him eating with them and drinking their, like, let's be flashy and eat. And I like that they're all respectful and they let him eat first. And he's like, oh, look at this. And don't hold back, you three. It's like, oh. And Tengen is he's so cute with his little chubby cheeks. And like, this whole flashback is so cute and precious. And I'm like, But yeah, she asks if he still thinks about his deceased siblings. And of course he does. They're at the gravesite there. He's like, of course he still thinks about them. Not a day goes by that I don't recall them. Yeah. He's like, even now it seems like yesterday when I left my homeland with you three. So he ran away from home with the three of them to go be a Hashira. I love that they all just stare at him. And, God, he asked them to join him in eating. And of course, I like that they all, like, dig in. And the one wife, she doesn't hold back. She's like, oh, yeah, sure. And then I like that Makio gets all mad at her, being like, show some restraint. She's like, but he said it was okay. Like, I love how their personalities are totally different, but they gel together really, really well. And so then, yeah, him just sitting there watching them. But he makes that line. He makes that line to them. He says, someday I'm going to hell. He's like, oh, whoops. I shouldn't have said that. Like asking, you know, if he's thinking that his actions, that's interesting that he thinks his actions are not going to get him into heaven, that he's not going to like a good afterlife, that his actions and what's happened are going to take him to hell instead, which is interesting because that's where you would imagine. It's funny because so far you would imagine that's where the demons go, but so far in this series, whenever a demon has died and they have these regrets, we've seen like with the spider demon and with some of the other ones that they don't necessarily go to hell. They actually go to the afterlife to be with their family and their families forgive them. And so that's interesting that he thinks that's not a possibility for him. But he says that he wants to drink with his siblings one day, so does he think his siblings are in hell too? Is that what but I don't think he wants to be his wives to end up there too. It's interesting. But yeah, he's like, for my siblings' sake, I'm going to live the flashiest life possible. Oh, and that image of him in front of the grave smiling. Nope. With you three, I'm going to live the flashiest life. Ugh. And then, yeah, the little Sakura, the blossom falls into her hair, and he picks it out in the most traditional romantic fashion. You know, the Japanese romance, picking the petal out of her hair, and that's the petal that she wants to keep. And of course, I like that Makio puts them all in her hair. She's like, pick one out of my hair. And he's like, you put those there yourself. And she's like, oh. I mean, I'm not saying that he likes Hinitsuru the most, but she might be his first wife, maybe. And so maybe she has a special place. It's just funny, the facial expressions where she's like, don't be cruel, pick the flowers out of my hair. And, oh God. I really thought that the wife that Hinitsuru was going to die. I thought she was going to die this episode because at this point, no one is safe. Like, I'm still reeling from Inosuke being like, how is he getting out of this? He got stabbed in the chest with the sickle blades. How is he getting out of being poisoned like that? How's that going to work? I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm sure next episode or in the next 2 episodes we'll find out. I don't think Inosuke's dying. He's one of the main 3. There's no way. But I'm like, how is he getting out of this? But Tengen, I think, is going to die at this point. He's poisoned. He's going to die. I thought the wives, I was like, they're not safe. They could totally die. And I love that everything turns green like Gyatoro in this moment when he realizes that Gyatoro has neutralized the poison from the kunai. Which would make sense if he's using poison sickle blades. If his demon ability lets him neutralize poison, that makes sense, right? Yeah, oh my God. So yeah, I thought the wives still could be in danger. I thought it was either going to go one of 3 ways in this series. Either all 3 of the wives and Tengen are going to die, all 4 of them, or Tengen's going to die and the wives are still going to live, or one of the wives was going to die and Tengen was going to die, and that would leave the other 2. So it looks like at this point that the 3 wives might make it out alive and Tengen's going to die, but I don't know. At this point, I'm like, I'm still reeling from Inosuke, and I'm like, and of course, yeah, he has blood demon art, so he can use just like Nezuko. I'm like, are they going to bring Nezuko back out for this? Is she going to come back out of the box, even though she's been sleeping? I don't know. But yeah, poor Tengen, his hair's like all over the place, and he kicks Tanjiro out of the way and uses the sound breathing. Like, just, God, the animation and the movement in this episode were so good. Like, just everything, like, all of it. And like, it almost looks like fireworks and everything flashing. And then when Gaitaro got Hinetsuru, I was like, oh my god. And then, of course, the belts. He loses it. Like, Tengen can stay strong and stern and doesn't let anything emotionally affect him except his wives, because he wants to keep his wives safe. And so her being like held hostage by him, like, just emotionally, like, seeing him get so scared for her. And the moment they switched to the sunset with the red dragonflies, I was like, this does not bode well. And you see, like, of course, it's in the grainy flashback quality, and it's the three wives being like, I wish I could become a dragonfly and soar like that. Don't say things like that. Those are red flags. Those are all death flags, right? And then she says, we were raised as shinobi, but after we beat an upper rank demon, like, it won't bring back the lives that we took. We still need to set things right somewhere along the line. And saying, or else we can never hold our heads up as long as we live. I love him looking at her. She's like, when that day comes, all four of us might not be alive. Death flags! Like, no, yeah. So I love that she suggested that they could try to, you know, make up for the lives they took as shinobi. And I'm like, that's probably why he said he was going to hell from all the lives that he took. And he tried to become a Hashira and kill demons to make up for that, to save people, to make up for the lives that he took while he was with his family. I'm like, that all makes sense. But I was like, the moment she's having this conversation, I'm like, you could not have been more death flaggy if you tried to. And so I really thought she was going to die. And Gyatro takes his sweet time attacking her. Although, I will say this, I will give Demon Slayer the benefit of the doubt in that he's like, leave her alone. And Tengen's like, just leave her alone. I'm like, oh my gosh. He just wants to keep her safe. To Demon Slayer's credit, whenever, like, everything moves so fast in this series that whenever there is a moment when the characters are taking their time and stuff seems to happen in slow motion, they're like inner monologuing it. Time does seem to slow down. So in the same moment that Tengen is screaming for Gyotaro to leave her alone, Tanjiro's over here trying to figure out what to do, and it's all happening within a matter of seconds. So it seems like, for us, the audience watching the anime medium, it seems like you're like, well, why hasn't he attacked her yet? Why is he taking his sweet time? But the reality is it's all happening in a manner of seconds. And Tanjiro's like working through this while Tengen's screaming, while Gyotaro's about to attack her. Like, in the manga, you can make that medium work and the passage of time makes sense. But here, as Tanjiro is running towards her, he's thinking out loud. He's thinking to himself and monologuing. So it is what it is. And yeah, and you see, like, it shows that this image just stills. It's just a still shot because it's just showing time isn't passing. But Tanjiro is so self-deprecating in this episode. I'm like, Tanjiro, honey, like, he's doing all he can and he's reached his limit. He's gone past his limit like 3 times at this point. And he's still on himself about not being useful. He's like, try to be more useful. Don't be so weak. I'm like, are you Shinji? I'm like taking a page out of Shinji's book, are we? I'm just like, dude, you're not useless. Like, you've done so much, but he doesn't see you as a threat. It's like, no. And Tanjiro's like, I'm weak, and if I can't make an unpredictable move, if I can make an unpredictable move, I can save her. It's like, Tanjiro, he's doing all he can, and he knows it's not enough, but it's so sad because you're like, dude, you've come so far. It's just, Tanjiro raises the threshold of how far he can go, and then he realizes that the demons are still up above him like this. Like, the fact that he took on Muzan head on, even though it wasn't really a fight at all, back like in episode 7 of season 1, still floors me. It still baffles me that he was able to, like, meet up with the Muzan from the beginning, and now we're just working our way back up. I am glad, too, that this series is at least somewhat realistic in the sense that Tanjiro cannot just keep using the Hagura. He can't keep on doing it over and over again. His body is at its limit. And he's like, I can't do it. He's like, I have no stamina. I'm literally spent. I can't make it work. And so he's like, what should I do? And so I like that Tanjiro goes back to his roots and he's like, look, I can be flexible. the most I can do. I can use water breathing. I can be flexible. The water breathing isn't going to attack Gyotaro. It's not going to do anything to him physically, but it will distract him enough. It'll do enough damage for me to get her away, to save her. Like that, I love that he realizes, like, okay, I love them blended together. He's like, I blend it together just enough to do him enough damage with the sun breathing cuts off his hand and the water breathing helps distract while he gets her away. Like, I love that. That was a good move on Tanjiro's part. I thought for a second when you saw like him holding his eye down, I thought he'd lost an eye in the process too, and I was like, what are we doing? This is like, oh my gosh. And he's still got that blade attached to his hand. And Gyotaro doesn't even look fazed. He's like, what? What the heck? What's going on? It's just, it's kind of insane. This battle has just been crazy. And again, this is only the 6th moon. This is not the upper moons. I'm like, show, what are we going to do? So yeah, the Hinokami Kagura, he's like, I can't do that by itself. It takes too much. But if I do some water bending, some water breathing in between, it can possibly do something. But oh my gosh. And I like this conversation where it shows like the different Hashira, or the different, I don't know if it was supposed to represent his ancestors perhaps, like his ancestors or the other demon slayers that have come before him, taking breathing techniques and sword skills that suited them best and combining them. So it's kind of a nice little representation of how the other breathing techniques, like the thunder breathing and everything, like the mist breathing came from this, and the love breathing came from this, and the beast breathing came from this form, like showing how the sun breathing offshot into different other branches, and they kind of spread out, right? Taking this main form and combining it with forms that suited them best to maximize their power, because they racked their brains. Because they worked so hard. And I like that he calls back that modification back to what he learned with the flexibility from Uro Kodaki. Uro Kodaki, I couldn't think of his name in the previous episode. I was like, oh, you know, the one that Giryu trained under, Uro Kodaki. Like, the fighting style was about being flexible that Tanjiro learned back in early season 1. And so Tanjiro's like, and I love seeing a flashback of him, and I love that we get to see Tanjiro with like his hair down and like looking so youthful. I'm like, I love that shot of him. He looks so good there. It's like, he just looks so young and not traumatized like he is now, right? But yeah, Giryu, I forget that Giryu's name is Tamioka, but Giryu, he's mastered the water breathing technique, but Tanjiro's like, I can't do that. That's not me. I have to be flexible and modify it to myself. He's like, I've got to do what I can, right? And then he's about to get attacked by Gyotaro, and thank goodness Tengen shows up when he does. And, he's like, thank you for buying me some time. You have my gratitude. Oh my gosh. I want to get a shot there of that shot of him about to attack him. It's so good. UFO table, y'all, the animation in this arc is just amazing. I cannot praise it enough. It's beautiful. It's the colors. The colors really set it apart, because if you're reading this in manga format, the line work in Demon Slayer, it's such thick line work. It's very intricate, but it's very thick line work. It's a very unique style. But the colors that UFO Table used for this series, it just makes it come alive and pop, and it's just, it's like chef's kiss. I love it. I also love the cutaways they have at the intermission here, where we see Tengen and Hitsuru, and then the 3 of our boys. The 3 of our boys, that one looks so good. That one, I want to get a picture of it too. It's such a good cutaway. It's really, really good. Zenitsu just needs to stay asleep the rest of this series. He's so reliable when he's asleep. He's the best sleepwalker ever. I love it, right? I love that he's able to do so much while he's just sleepwalking. It's great. Which my cousin sleepwalks, and it's the scariest thing in the world, because he just roams around, and he talks in his sleep too, just kind of like Zenitsu. He'll just have a conversation with you in his sleep, and you're like, what are you doing? It's kind of the creepiest thing in the world, but here it's great with Zenitsu. Zenitsu becomes like such a leader when he's asleep, like talking to Inosuke and telling him like, we need to do this, we need to do that, go do this. Like, he becomes such a take charge leader. And the funny thing is, when he wakes up, he's probably not gonna remember any of this, which is so frustrating. But yeah, Inosuke's grown on me. Him in this episode, I like that we get to see that Inosuke and Zenitsu, they are not unscathed. They have suffered some injuries from the belt blades as this has gone on, right? They've not just been unharmed in this entire match. But I like that Tengen and Tanjiro tell them, they're like, it's fine. As long as we keep their heads detached at the same time, we'll be able to stop them. Just decapitate her. Like Zenitsu says it, actually. Zenitsu's like, just decapitate her. We'll be fine. And then he's like, calm down. We just have to decapitate her, keep her from reattaching the head, and then once we decapitate Gyotaro, then they'll both die. Easier said than done, right? It's such an easy concept, but this episode shows just how difficult it is, and Gyotaro is not going down without a fight, and is freaking terrifying. And so I love the teamwork that Tanjiro and Zenitsu and Inosuke have. They all work together really great, and this episode leads you to believe that it's gonna work out. You're like, okay, we're at the end of episode 9. We just got 2 episodes to go. It's cool. Next episode, we'll have the resolution of this fight. And then episode 11, we'll just get right on to the next mission. That's not happening. My theories of what was gonna happen here is just, God, it's not going to come true. Because that's what I thought. I thought we were gonna resolve this battle in this episode, or at least at the beginning of the next episode, and then have the rest, the aftermath, to deal with next episode, and then episode 11 would be transitioning into the next arc. That's not happening, so... But yeah, and the fact that Gyotaro's blades can, like, it can suck into the other blades and, like glue, it's creepy, like stick to it. Ugh. And then, yeah, Tengen tries to decapitate him with the other thing, and he just cranks that head around Exorcist style and bites it. Ugh. And then Tengen makes the sacrifice. He's like, look, Tanjiro, you get away with my wife, and I will fight him. He's like, Kamado, you hang on. And I like that his wife kind of knows what's happening, so she grabs Nezuko. She's like, she sees the writing on the wall. But he's like, I'll go down there and fight. And, God, it's just brutal, this fight between them. And so then Tanjiro decides to go out and help the other 2 out. And they have great teamwork. It reminded me of Mugen Train. I thought the wife was going to get slashed again because she gets really close to being hit by the sickle blades and the belt. And Tanjiro's like, get out of here, Hinitsuru. So she takes off, I guess, to go find the other 2 wives. But it reminded me of Mugen Train, the way that Tanjiro and Inosuke were working to try to get to Daki. Only now Zenitsu is involved as well. So it was like a step up from Mugen Train. It was just so well choreographed. It was beautiful. It was great. And then I love Inosuke saying, what was the point of all this training if we don't succeed? And we cut back to Rengoku dying. What was the point? Cuts back to them training. What was the point? Cuts back. He's like, what? He's like, what's the point if we can't defeat her? And honestly, as Inosuke is perfect to stop Daki, because he's like, well, fine, if I can't chop her head off in one swing of my blade, I'll just saw it off. I was amazed that this show got away with him just sawing her head off. Like, that's so disgusting. Like, just slowly sawing it off, and then she just pops off with her hands. I guess because we didn't see, like, blood spurting out everywhere, we could get past the censors, but oh my God, that was gruesome. Like, if you ever sawed anything, it's like sawing a piece of meat. It was, God, which fits Inosuke, right? But you just think they're getting away. He had her head, and it was a humorous moment, right? They're all slashed up, but he manages to grab the head, and you think everything's gonna work out. He's like, you guys go back and help Tengen. I'm gonna get out of here with the head, and I'll just run. That's what I thought this episode was gonna go. I thought he was gonna run around with her head in his hands for the rest of the battle, and then Tengen and Zenitsu and Tanjiro were gonna take Gyotaro together, and then they were gonna defeat him. And I had in my head this headcanon of, as Inosuke is running with the head, he has this conversation with Daki, she spills some more backstory exposition, and then as it so happens, you know, as they decapitate Gyotaro, she starts to dissolve in Inosuke's hands, and it's this big dramatic moment. That's not happening! I'm like, what? I mean, I figure at this point Tengen is going to die. The moment that they said the poison was spreading through, I'm like, no, he's gonna die. But now it's like expedited. I was like, he may already be dead. I don't think he's already dead, but he may be immediately about to die. I'm like, what? So now it's like, what are we going to do? It's just, he's running with it and getting past her, and you think everything is okay. And he even cuts off her hair, and then he's like, your attacks are lame. And she's like, what did you say? But she's had the eye the whole time with her breath. The fact that her eye has still been, the eye still being active should have been a sign that Gyotaro wasn't dead. Because, oh my God, you get weak once your head's cut off. And then the sickle, I mean, it missed his heart, but it went right through his chest. I don't know how he's getting out of this. I'm like, Inosuke, the only thing I can think of, I'm like, I don't think beast breathing can stop poison. The only thing I can think of is if Inosuke is from a tribe that was immune to poison, like maybe wherever Inosuke's from, like he was born with some kind of immunity to the poison. That's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe, because we don't know a lot about Inosuke's past, like maybe he's immune to it. I don't know, because I'm like, how is Inosuke not dying after this? That's the big question, right? Oh, I'm like, nope, I don't like this. And the blood coming up through the mask. And then Tanjiro screaming out his name. Oh my God. And his vision blurring. Our boy Tanjiro's been through, he's like, was he stabbed in the heart? Where's the wound? It's so dark, I can't see. Oh, Tanjiro, that's so sad. And he's got the head. He's like, what is he doing here? Where's Uzui? And then, oh my God, yeah, the blade. And the hand's chopped off. Oh, and he's, yeah, the whole, like, arm is just cut up with the poison. Oh. And then Zenitsu's like, look out. And then, I love that everything gets red. Like, the blade, like, the blades from the bow and everything, the belt get red. Oh. Oh. It's just, everything goes to hell in a handbasket. And, like, destroying the buildings. Nezuko's cut off his back. I don't think Nezuko's gonna fight again, but... Oh, and... Oh. I don't like this at all! This is, as I take pictures of it. Yeah, and then Tanjiro says this would happen because I wasn't paying attention. I'm like, no, it didn't. You were paying attention. It's just you're fighting an upper ranked demon. That's just the thing. I'm like, Tanjiro, quit being so down on yourself. He's like, I'm sorry, Inosuke. If only I noticed him sooner. I'm like, the guy moves at the speed of light. How could you not? You were too busy. Oh, he's like, if I hadn't let Uzui side in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. Oh. I'm like, you can't think that. Oh, I hate it. Nope, I don't like it at all. Oh, this is just... And then he says, I'm sorry, Nezuko. And I'm like, don't say sorry to your sister. I'm like, oh my God. And then it ends. So the cliffhanger in this episode isn't nearly as out of nowhere as it was, but it hurts even worse. So, like, I don't know how they're beating him now. I don't know how. Because Inosuke's down and Zenitsu, unless some of Inosuke's beast breathing, unless he does, like, that recovery breathing that allows him to hold off the poison, unless he can do that somehow and can do the recovery breathing, unless he can manage that. And Zenitsu didn't look like he got hit by the blade, so he might be okay. He can be fast. So maybe he can avoid them. But I'm like, how are our boys getting out of this? And Gaitaro and her are back together again. Oh, I just... I don't know how this is going to go down, but this episode, I figured things were going to get dire, but I did not think they would get as insane as they did this episode. I'm like, oh no. Oh no, I'm just like, oh God, no, I'm not ready for that. Nope, not ready at all. Damn it. So yeah, I'm gonna wait a little bit for episode 10 just because I'm not ready for it. But yeah, this whole thing at the very end is just never give up. I'm like, okay, battle shonen. That's a common battle shonen theme, is not giving up no matter how dire things seem, but how are we going to pull it off? So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, what you all thought of this horrifically sad episode. Demon Slayer's getting ready to tug at my heartstrings. I just know it, and I'm not ready. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care. But yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 10, the penultimate episode of Demon Slayer season 2. Bye.